is to make a decision for yourself. Are you going to undergo this process of change or aren't you? It's as simple as that. If you choose that you are, then it must be a very sincere choice, because you must be prepared to work at it, because there's work we need to do to get ourselves ready to undergo this process. Now, once you have made that decision and you make sure that you really do believe that you are going to do this and are determined to do it, and the next stage is just that. Sit down quietly one day, and when you've made this decision, and say to yourself, with as much intent, positive intent, as you can inject into the statement, is to say to yourself, and also by doing that what you're doing is saying to your higher self, is that I want to complete this process. I want to undergo this process of soul reintegration. I want to stay on Earth. And after that, what will happen is that your higher self will find ways to help you to sort out the problems that you have in your life that need sorting out. Not all problems you have in your life require sorting out. But what I mean by problems is things like, what we're doing is bringing the higher self into the body. We are increasing the amount of soul energy we contain within the body. And in order to do that, we need to make some space. And so what we need to do is to get rid of all the emotions we've accumulated over this lifetime. Now, everybody accumulates emotions. We never express ourselves properly. Everybody's found themselves in situations where their mothers told them they need to do something. And instead of shouting back at your mother, I'm not doing that, it's your life, it's not mine, we don't say anything. And all of that angst gets stored in the body. And daily, if you're out working and you've got a boss, and your boss says, do this, and you want to tell him where to get stuffed, and you can't, or you're going to get sacked. The same thing again, we store that emotion away within the body. So what we need to do is to clear all of these accumulated emotions out. And the best way of doing that is to use an old technique. It's Native American originally, but the technique is very simple. And what you do is you get yourself a newspaper, an old newspaper, and a pencil. And what you do is to start writing to the people who have made you angry, made you annoyed, frustrated, whatever it is. And you write to them on the newspaper. But you don't read it back. That's the important thing, is you don't read it back. Because if you read it back, what you're doing is taking all the emotion back into the body. So you need to get it out. We need to clear the body out. So by writing it on newspaper, it's physically impossible to read it back, because you're writing in pencils. You can't actually read what you've written. So once you've finished a piece of writing to your mother, your boss, great aunt, Elsie, or whoever it is, makes no difference. Is just rip it up and get rid of it. Burn it if you can, but otherwise just get rid of it. But rip it up into little pieces, so that what you're doing is getting the emotion out. And once you've finished writing that, if you think back on what you've just written, and you still feel angry, or whatever the emotion is connected with it, then you know that you need to write again, because you haven't cleared that situation out of your system. Your system isn't clear enough yet, so you need to do more writing over that situation. Rip it up again and get rid of it. It's when you can think back on events that have occurred in your life, and you can see them as events without any emotional upsurge attached to that event, then you know that you have cleared the emotion out of your system. And essentially that's all you really need to do, is the statement of intent and the clearance of old emotional debris out of the body. It's as simple as that. Now, I know people don't like simple answers. I mean, humans, God bless us, like everything as complicated as possible. Unless it's complicated, it can't work. It never does work that way. The simplest answer is nearly always the correct answer, and the easiest way to do something. And this giveaway process sounds like it cannot possibly work until you try it. And then you realize just how much rubbish you're hanging on to, and have held on to, all of your life. You'll find stuff coming back from childhood that you thought you had dealt with, but you haven't. It's there, it's still there. You think about it, and it creates an emotional response within your body even now. Using this process will clear that out, and the more rubbish, emotional debris that you clear out, the more of the soul you can take in. The more of the soul you take in, the more rubbish you can clear. So it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle eventually. until eventually what you have is the highest whole of the higher self back within the body. And then at that point, everything changes. The world changes totally, because your view of the world changes, your interaction with the world changes, your interaction with people changes, everything changes. Let's say there's 4.5 million people